Valuation of preference shares. The present value of a share is the present value of an infinite stream of dividends. We can represent that using this formula. This character is the Greek letter sigma, which stands for the sum of. Therefore, this formula is saying that the value of a share at time 0 is the sum, where t takes on all values from 1 to infinity, of the dividend in year t, discounted to a present value, by dividing by the interest rate factor to the power t. That's still not a formula that we can actually put into practice. We cannot literally calculate the present value of an infinite stream of dividends by discounting them all one by one. So we need a shortcut, and we'll obtain that shortcut by making some sort of assumption about the future behavior of dividends. Number 1, dividends will remain constant. Number 2, dividends will grow at a constant growth rate. We will use the first of these assumptions in calculating the value of a preference share. That's because the dividends you receive from a preference share constitute a perpetuity, the same cash flow, repeated every period, forever. This is essentially the formula for the present value of a perpetuity. We've changed the variable somewhat so that the formula specifically applies to the value of a preference share. P0 is the price of the share today, div is the constant dividend, and RE is the equity cost of capital, or the required rate of return. What is the value of a preference share that is expected to pay a constant annual dividend of $2.40 if the required rate of return on equity is 12%? Substituting the values into the formula, we get an answer of $20. In the previous example, dividends were paid every year, and that is often the case when it comes to shares, but not necessarily so. In the topic on financial mathematics, there was a module called frequency of compounding, and we noted there that the R and the N in any time value of money formula reflects periods, not years. And that's the case here. These numbers on the number line represent payment periods, not necessarily years. So we need to make sure that we have the dividend that's payable every period and the equity cost of capital that applies to one of those periods. Let's do an example of that. What is the value of a preference share that is expected to pay a constant semi-annual dividend of $1.80 if the required rate of return on equity is 10% per annum? Here is the formula. The dividend that we have given is the dividend that's actually paid every 6 months, so there's no need to make a change there, but we're given a required rate of return that's an annual amount, and we need to convert that to a semi-annual value before we can apply the formula. The required rate of return every 6 months is 5% or 0.05, and therefore the answer is $36.